Welcome back, everybody, to the Squatchers Lounge podcast, right here live Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific. Tonight on the show, we're talking about Onion Lake, California. That's right. A couple of incidents there in 2004, and the coincidence between them are just going to be amazing. Not far from the actual film site of Bluff Creek in 1967, along with a Quasi Rewind and a Camping Tips for Stupids. We're going to wrap it all up with a Bigfoot Campfire Story. So, thank you for being here tonight. I am your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. Things are moving a little bit slow around here tonight, but we're getting it done. As you can see, I'm packing up the gear because I'm going to Bluff Creek right here come this Monday. That's right. Me and a few fellas from Southern California are going to be making the trek, and it's going to be an interesting expedition for sure. In the background, you hear the little yipping going on. Well, I lost my precious Maxie, my dachshund of 10 years not too long ago, and we finally replaced him with a little half Pomeranian, half Maltese Chihuahua, and she is settling in. This is her fourth day, so bear with me a little bit. She'll quiet down. Everything will get groovy. I'm here. You're there. It's going to make the whole thing fantastic. Let's see. Tonight, there is a little bit of news to talk about, so let's get that up here and we can talk about it. Where exactly is it? I have lost it, but I will get it back up here in just a moment. Sorry about that, folks. Everything at YouTube is running very, very slowly. I survived the Facebook crap today, but it appears that YouTube is not going to be any better. So with that, there we go. All right. Now we're at it. Found this one kind of interesting. The wowshack.com brings us a male orangutan clinging precariously to overhanging branches flails the water with a pole trying to desperately to spear a passing fish. The extraordinary image, a world exclusive, was taken in Borneo on the island of Kaja. This individual had seen locals fishing with spears on the Gohong River. Although the method required too much skill for him to master, he was later able to improvise by using the pole to catch fish already trapped in the locals' fishing lines. Might not be able to snag them suckers as they swim by, but he can get them when they stuck. This is not the first recorded incident of tool use by orangutans, of course. The species was found observed using tools in the wild in 1982 in the Tangjun Puding National Park. But I just thought that was a fantastic image of apes imitating humans. As far as tool use is, naturally they don't develop it. However, after being exposed to it, it's incredible the type of intelligence these animals have to be able to replicate that. Kanzi, the bonobo we talk about a lot on the show, he's actually able to start his own fire, feed the fire, and cook the meat the way he likes it. And that's just incredible. All right, moving into the Sasquatch field in the news part this week. The Squatchers return to Rimmer. That's right. The Squatchers, Minnesota's women-led cryptid research team, will return to Rimmer, known as the home of Bigfoot. I don't know why. Minnesota, on July 6th for the town's annual festival, Bigfoot Days. The only research team of its kind. Not true at all. This dynamic, one-of-a-kind team of 8 women search for all cryptids. That's not true at all. There have been all-women cryptid teams around for a long, long time, with special emphasis on finding Sasquatch in a peaceful manner. Barahuta Milakunes. Field researchers at Squatchers can frequently be found trekking through Minnesota's woodlands and wetlands on the lookout for Bigfoot and other cryptids. Girls with Grit, Squatchers, will be in attendance at their booth on Main Street in Rimmer and storytelling time on Saturday, July 6th. Congratulations to them. Yeah, I don't know if you can claim to be the world's only all-female cryptid team or the world's first all-female cryptid. I mean, Monster Quest featured an all-girl team in Ohio. I want to say it was like way back when. I don't know. whatever. Call yourself whatever you want. I am the greatest podcaster on the planet who has a ginger beard and lives in Yuba County. Iconic author Peter Matheson, revealed as a Bigfoot devotee, claimed he spotted the Sasquatch in the Northwest. That's right. Peter Matheson won the National Book Award 3 times and co-founded the influential literary journal Paris Review. The author of Shadow Country and In the Spirit of Crazy Horse, you know, Jenny Star Pepper and the Giant White Gibbon. I'm sorry. Was an ardent environmentalist, our greatest modern natural writer in the lyrical tradition. Early in his career, he worked as an undercover agent in the CIA. Yes! Gets better. He also believed in Bigfoot. Sasquatch has recently returned to the public consciousness, leading to the publication of new books on the subject, and even the Indian Army announced that it had discovered mysterious footprints that could belong to the Yeti. That's right. Bigfoot's abominable snowman cousin? Question mark. Ancient alien astronaut theorists say now Matheson's nephew, science journalist Jeff Wheelwright, has delved into his uncle's little-known Bigfoot obsession in an essay for the Yale Review. It turns out that in 1976, while kicking around the Pacific Northwest, Matheson saw a tall bipedal figure run across the road and disappear into the trees. You think Sasquatches are big, clumsy, ape-like creatures? The one that Matheson spotted jumped a tangle of stumps and logs with the ease of a deer. That's right. Weary to the end. Peter never published anything substantive about Sasquatches, but he clearly intended to. Wheelwright writes he labored on a Bigfoot book on and off for some 30 years. It was the last work on his desk when he died in 2014. There you go. There you have it. You know, everybody's getting on the Bigfoot bandwagon. A little late to the party, I think. But hey, that's interesting news. Finding Bigfoot, one man's mission to locate New Zealand's very own Sasquatch. That's right. Back a couple of years, my ex-co-partner David and I went through Bigfoots around the world. So if you search on our page for New Zealand, this thing will pop up. A paranormal investigator claims he's planning a mission to find New Zealand's very own Bigfoot. Mark Opel said he hoped to capture the footage of the Moha man. Yeah, I don't think so. Which he claimed was an ape-like creature from Morai legend. Auckland-based Copel said that his hunt started back in 2015 when he had strange experiences out in a remote area of Coromandel Bush. After finding unusual footprints in hard-to-reach places and hearing heavy bipedal approaches, I had the unnerving feeling of being watched. So there you have it. That fella there. Yeah, I don't know why it is, but he just reminds me of a snake oil salesman. Mercury with chalk. Science! All right, people, that's going to wrap it up. Now you're going to start to play? Well, isn't that just wonderful for you, you weirdos? All right, that's going to wrap it up for the news segment this evening. All right, and put us right into time for the Quasi Theory of the Week. That's right. We had to get a rewind because, well, our Quasi Theorist has just been in a mind screw for some time, but he'll get back at it. You know, everybody's worth it. So we'll run a rewind and be happy with that. Let's check out the Quasi on Flattened. And now, Quasi Theories from a Quasi Scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
The Reverend Jeff suggested that I do a quasi theory on the idea that the event horizon of a black hole is two-dimensional. An idea that was initially proposed years ago, but has somehow popped up again in various news feeds of those of us who have gone and liked, as in Facebook liked, a number of science-related Facebook pages. After spending a good deal of time yesterday researching the proposed two-dimensional flatness of black holes, researched as in Googling the bejesus out of black hole-related words and phrases, I have come to the conclusion that the mathematical physicists doing the research mean one thing by two-dimensional and the people writing the articles popping up in news feeds mean another. What I mean is that black holes are in point of fact spherical. They are not flat as such. The two-dimensional surface being discussed is the flat surface of a sphere, which is flat only if you are a flat being living on the surface of the sphere and can't look up, but only sideways along the plane of the sphere. Of course, there aren't any beings as such living on the surface of a black hole, because a black hole has no surface as such. It has what they euphemistically call an event horizon. Matter, light, what have you, disappears almost utterly when it passes the event horizon, giving a last gasp of breath, or maybe sort of a fart, known as Hawking radiation, named after Stephen Hawking. I know that if I were being crushed by a black hole, I'd be hawking up everything too, so the name is quite appropriate. Hawking radiation is defined as a virtual particle. A virtual particle is neither here nor there. A Hawking radiation virtual particle only gets to here or there if it gets to escape the event horizon. If it does that, it becomes the radiation that lets us detect the black hole. Apparently, a lot of these virtual particles escape black holes and head our way because we have detected black holes. This seems like circular reasoning to me, but that's mathematical physics for you. Neither here nor there, much like Schrodinger's cat, who was neither dead or alive until you open the door of the box the cat lives in. I refuse to explain Schrodinger's cat, but I've often wondered if Schrodinger put a litter box in with his cat. This has been Dean Cooper, quasi-scientist, enlightening you with my quasi theory of the week. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
Well, there you have it. I'm still going to make you explain Schrodinger's cat because I think the damn thing died. It didn't have any food or a litter box in there. So that thing's covered in crap and a dead cat. Anyhow, all right. It is time for that camping tips for stupids moment. That's right. From the mind of Gone Camping's Jevin Moore. It's one of those times that you just never know. You just never know what he's gonna say next. So here we go.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 67. Getting hurt while camping can suck. Cutting your finger, swinging an axe into your leg, or getting dominance humped by a dog man. Injuries can occur when you least expect it. Having a medical kit in and around your campground can be the difference between smiling and not smiling, or having a good time, or crying like a grown adult man baby because you have a boo-boo. Okay, that's more than a boo-boo. Typically, your kit should include items like things like scratches, scrapes, cuts, as well as insect bites and stings, along with painkillers and antiseptics. But you also might want to plan for the worst, such as profuse bleeding out of a deep gap that a bear might have gave you when he was trying to put you in his stomach. So you might want to pack that gash with gauze and use something like an Israeli bandage and such to control the bleeding and stabilize the wound. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos lately. All in all, getting hurt hurts. I know. My first camping trip in years and I get stung by a damn wasp. I cried because it turned me into a damn adult man baby. Pain can destroy even the strongest of men. Shut up. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
That's right, folks. Spay and neuter your idiot populations, because Well, it's important. All right, this is the part of the show where I get you people involved and say howdy with shout outs to the hangout. That's right. You guys come out here and watch it live. So I say hi to you. That's all part of the gig. So let's see who was hanging out today. There's Mr. Ginn all over the microphone again once tonight. There's Rod Dupree. The man's always in the place to be. Our great brother from the Great White North, Mr. Lance Windsor. It's going to start to snow up there soon, I'm sure. It's July. Natalie Smith is in the house. All right. Glad you are with us. Glad you're well enough to be along. Mr. Tim McCune. Hello there, sir. We are ready to go. That's right. Missed it last week. All right. Or a week before last. Anyhow, we are looking at Miss Bella. Hello, Miss Maria. Hello. Hello. Frank G. Yes, right. You're back in the house. Hello to you as well. There's Dean Cooper, the quasi theorist himself. Hello there, sir. And we've got Mr. Don Reif, the big Viking from, up north there. Hello there, sir, to you as well. And we scroll down here a little bit and we check out some new names because I know there's more in here than this. There, Dwayne Sousville. Hello there. Happy 4th to you as well. And Josu Salazar. Hosu, can you phonetically put that in there for me so I can see exactly how to pronounce your first name? I really don't want to butcher it. I do not have any Hispanic in me at all. Sorry. Dave Jackson, hey man, glad you are with us tonight as well. Karen Robb is checking us out. There she is. Wee. That must be the little piggy went all the way home. That's right. Captain Caveman. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while. There's the Forest Crab. Hi, my name's, of course, people call me Forest Crab. Glad you are in the house with us, sir. Been missing for a while. Brown Dwarf. There he is. He's late, but he's there. That's what's important. There is the Sam Squanch Rivera. Welcome to the house, my Florida brother. Let's see here. Who else is with us tonight? I know there's more people. Mr. Fang, the 333. Hello there, sir. Glad you are checking this out. Your Hobo Man 5. Was there a Your Hobo Man 1 through 4, or is that like a thing? I'm just curious. Let's see here. I know there's far more than this. And there, Richard Barfield's in the house with us tonight. B. Footer, evening to you. Glad you're back. Let's see here. North County Bigfoot. Welcome to the house. We're talking about Bigfoot tonight. That is faux show. Yeah, we'll get there eventually. I know. Keith Smith from South Dean County. Welcome to the show. Michael Bird, man, glad you're feeling well enough to be with us tonight. Seriously. Been a while since you've been back. All right, we're moving on up. Guys have actually seen it out there yet. I certainly have. Kathy Yalborough's in the house with us as well. California Picking. There's Drew the man, the myth, the legend himself. He is chilling and hanging out with us tonight. There's a video out now of a 4K upscaling of the Patterson-Gimlin footage that's out there. And yeah, I mean, the dude painstakingly took his time and upscaled it and did all the things that you can do with the new software and ran it as a GIF. And it's there. And I don't know that it's all that much better than the work that MK Davis did with the black and white GIF stabilization a couple of years ago. Everybody's saying that it's the greatest thing of the Patterson-Gimlin film, but I'm really not sure that it is. MK Davis is a crazy bastard. He's a nut job. I'm not even going to get into that portion of it, but the man did incredible work with stabilizing the Bigfoot film from '67, and I would hate to take away from that. This new thing that's out there is neat. But in the same token, I'm just not seeing all the extra detail that they keep talking about. I did go through the 25-minute video of the creator for it, and it is interesting that he's picking up reds and blacks and grays in the color of the fur, which they wouldn't have done in any type of a suit. Still a bunch of people out there saying that it's a man in a suit. I just can't imagine that that those people are ever going to be convinced of anything else, so I don't even try. But while I'm up there at the location this week, we're going to actually be on the sandbar for a while. We're going to do some videos up there. We're going to make some film. I will do a walkthrough explanation as to why the creature went the way she went. And I don't think anybody's actually taken the time to kind of explain that while on the site actually talking about it. So that's one of the things that I wanted to do while we were up there. So with that, yeah, check out that 4K Patterson Gimlin upscaling. I guess that's what it was. And it's definitely worth checking it out. All right, so here we go, folks. We're going to get into it now. We're talking Sasquatch at Onion Lake. Yeah, that's right. All right. If it's going to allow me to share it with you people, I sure hope it does. There we go. All right. So there is what I'm looking for here. Yeah, Brown Dwarf. We're going to be up in Bluff Creek. Not going to Bluff Creek until Monday is when we land up there. Sorry, there. Onion Lake is what I wanted to show you guys. Now, Onion Lake is at the top of Onion Mountain, which is actually, as the crow flies, about 3 miles from Louse Camp, most likely, maybe 4. This is one of those locations that I was talking about that had Patterson and Gimlin really wanted to set up a hoax. This would have been one of the places that they could have traveled to do it. It was very easily accessible. It is just as much in the wild. They could have driven their van directly up to this thing with some weirdo in a suit. And there is plenty of location, as you can see, even back then, that they would have been able to get away with filming a Bigfoot walking across the same type of an area, and it would have been just as believable as finding it down there in nearly an impossible to get to location. So that was one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about tonight, is with the Onion Lake. So now, back in, let's see here. This is the other one I wanted to pull out. Okay. 2004, summer, July the 5th. Arcadia, California. Take Highway 299 east, 45 miles east of the small town of Willow Creek, and then take the 96 north. July 2004, my brother and I went on a Sasquatch expedition to Bluff Creek area of Humboldt County, California. The first night we stayed at Onion Lake on Onion Mountain, located on Forest Road 13N01. We spent all afternoon setting up camp, taking pictures, and looking around Onion Lake for Sasquatch evidence. Around 9 p.m., just as it got dark, we heard a loud grunt roar down from the hill just atop above our camp. The grunt that we heard can only be described as something exhaling a great amount of air all at once. It was very loud, very rough, and only lasted for a second. My brother turned to me and said, "Well, what the heck was that?" At that moment, a deer ran down the hill from the same direction of the grunt and into our camp. Then, out of the darkness, another grunt roared through the forest from our right at a distance. We thought it was about 100 to 150 yards out from our camp. Then we heard a grunt that straight out of our camp that was at least 400 to 500 yards out. Then we heard another grunt from up the top of the hill again. Then the grunt out to the right answered the grunt from the top of the hill. And then we heard the grunt that was out 450 yards answer the grunt on top of the hill, and the grunt to our right. That's kind of hard. Who's on first? What's on second? Third base. It was as if whatever it was making these sounds were communicating back and forth to one another. This grunting was very intense for the first hour or so. Then it calmed down a little throughout the rest of the night. The last grunt we heard was about 5 a.m., just before first light. At one time, around 10 p.m., we heard a loud grunt come from behind us over by Onion Lake. I turned on my 3 million candle power spotlight and searched the forest in the direction that we heard the grunt, but saw nothing. That grunt could not have been more than 100 yards away from us. It was very loud and very rough. Around that same time, the other grunt seemed to be getting closer to our camp, and we started to get scared. We huddled together in the middle of our camp with our rifles and our shotguns in hand, along with the 3 million candle spotlight in hand, ready to take on whatever was making these loud grunts. We were hearing something we had never heard before. It sounded as though it was very big, and the sound of the grunts these things were making, we were scared. It was as if it was not for the firearms we took with us, we would have thrown all our camping gear in our vehicle and we would have left in a cloud of dust a half mile high and 20 miles long as we were getting the heck out of there. But we got up the next morning and looked around a little, but we didn't see or hear anything. Whatever was making these grunts, they were nocturnal animals and they were only active at night. We could also tell that the animals were moving around the forest from grunt to grunt. The grunts would get loud, and then it would come from a specific location in the woods, and then the next grunt would come from the same general location, but a little to the right or left, a little closer or further away than the grunt before. We never did hear anything walking through the dry underbrush. Whatever they were making these grunts, they moved through the woods very quietly, with no sound at all except for their grunts. We packed up our camping gear into our vehicle, and we spent the next night down at Lau's camp on Bluff Creek. That night, we had no visitors, and we returned home to Eureka the next morning. About 1 month after we returned from our expedition to Onion Lake and Bluff Creek, I was watching a show on the Discovery Channel about ball pythons in India. A large 15-foot snake was crawling on the ground. I don't know what this has anything to do with any of that. Also, the deer that ran down the hill into our campsite, along with a few other deer, stayed right next to our campsite, about 25 to 40 feet away from our tent, all night as these grunts went on in the woods. The deer showed no fear of our presence. They acted like they were more comfortable around us, humans, than they were out there in the woods with whatever that was grunting. So that's, that's kind of one of those typical sightings that goes on at Onion Lake. And now here, if you're looking at the image of Onion Lake on your screen, the lake runs downhill, uphill from where they're talking about is up towards the top of this clearing, and this has not been logged since they were in there in 2004. The camping area is basically right along this corridor here, right up to the edge of the lake. The lake, when I was there last time, had some small fish in it. I wouldn't say anything of any real significance as far as a food source goes, but the toads, holy but Jesus, there were a million toads going on out there. So much so that it was ridiculous. I mean, it literally was ridiculous. After dark, the roadway that you can see here, this actually leads back down to Lau's camp. We nearly, you couldn't help but run them over. There were so many of them. I mean, if you tried to avoid them all, you'd have run off the hillside and fall into your death to a very, very, very ugly death. And well, nobody wants that. As it was, I almost died of cougar poop up there. Now, here from the OregonBigfoot.com website comes a report, again, July 5th, 2004 in Humboldt County. The story talks as though they were staying at the exact same place, and goes on to talk about a sighting that would, the BFRO report stops at the audio, but this continues on. 2 months later, on the 1st of September, they had gone back to check out the location. So this is basically just a retelling of the same story that was just on the BFRO website, just told to a different interviewer. Okay. But they make it out to say as though they saw a creature there, which is very, very difficult to understand. But yeah, whatever the case may be. All right. So let's take a quick look here at the Onion Lake area. I hear you, Miss Cleo. Poor little thing. We scroll out here on our map. We've got Blue Creek Mountain, which is also another historical Bigfoot sighting location. And as we scroll back here down to the Y, this is actually where Louse Camp is right down here from the same forest road. Now, Louse Camp down here at 12 and 10 has had famous sightings from even people like Bobo, James Bobo Fay, saw a juvenile Sasquatch basically come in from the forest edge and basically spy on what was going on in the camp at night, and then ditch out and run away and didn't come back. There's a couple of other ones. There's a Notice Creek sighting. There's also the Laird Meadow sighting that we talked about out there. There's the footprints from the 1958 bridge of Jerry Crew. The bridge has actually been redone, but the creek is actually further down the 1210 N road itself. If you continue on up that road, that's where you actually go in and come around down into the film site itself. So where we're talking about is 5 square miles of at least a dozen famous Bigfoot sightings, all in that same area, spanning from 1958 all the way to 2004. So obviously there's a reason that we still go back down in there. This is one of the locations that we're actually going to visit when we're up there in Bluff Creek itself. So for sure, that is what's going on. And with that, my people, that's going to wrap us up for this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. That's right. I'm sorry. I thought I had a second story that would have gone along with that, but apparently it was not. I will try to do better in the future. That's totally my bad. Anyhow, we do have a Bigfoot campfire story for you to wrap it up tonight. And I will go back through the chat there and check on that information, Brown Dwarf, just a moment. And with that, everybody, I want to thank you guys for being here. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about Onion Lake, and you could see, like I said, that was one of those locations that if they really wanted to do a hoax, they certainly could. I don't know why. That's the second time it has done that to me in 2 weeks. I didn't select that picture. I selected the other picture, and it wanted to put Dean up on top. So, that's probably why. There we go. Yeah, Onion Lake. This is a picture of Onion Lake itself here. The campground is directly behind it. It is a 150% believable place that they could have filmed a Bigfoot in it. And unfortunately for them, fortunately for them, they didn't have to hoax anything. They ran in to the real deal. And with that, enjoy this Bigfoot campfire story. We'll see you in 2 weeks, because I'll still be up in Bluff Creek next week. So I'll see you in 2 weeks right here, Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Thanks, everybody, and may the Squatch be with you. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Well, this story was told to me by a fellow named Travis. Now, Travis was a lifelong deep trail camper, as he liked to fish in places that were tough to get to in the mountains of western Virginia. After a week at his location, a strange visitor showed up. Well, let's just say it got a little hairy. Let's hear his story. I had scheduled a trip up to the Shenandoah River State Park to fish for a couple of weeks, and, well, as usual, my fishing partner backed out at the last minute, so I was on my own once again. I traveled up to the park by car, and I left it in the parking area and packed in the 5 miles to my campsite. After setting up camp, I'd set off to find that deep pool that contained dinner. After an hour of searching, I located what seemed to be a quiet spot to catch some nice rainbow to smoke on the fire for later on. And sure enough, 30 minutes later, I had 2 nice fish in the basket. So I went ahead and gutted and cleaned them right there and headed back to camp. And when I got back to camp, I set a small fire going and set the fish in some tin foil with some lemon and some garlic and some thyme and set the pockets on the fire to cook. I'd walked back to the trail to relieve myself when I noticed what first seemed like some odd markings on a couple of the trees. It was as if someone had stood there and beat the crap out of the trunk with a tree with a baseball bat. The bark was all depressed into it and pushed into the meat of the trees as if something had used that spot over and over again. Even the base of the tree was beaten down as the soil around it was compacted, as something heavy had stomped all around it on a regular basis. Strange, to say the least. A couple of days later, on my way back to camp, I found a big old log that somehow found its way across the path that led back to my camp. I just traveled that way yesterday on the way back, and it was clear of anything of this size. Took a look around, and I couldn't find any place where this log had come from. It was as if something or someone had carried it into that location and put it in my way. Yet another odd occurrence happened that night when I turned in for some sleep. About 2 a.m, I was awoken to what sounded like breathing outside of my tent. I must admit, I was disturbed at first, but I spoke softly as not to scare whatever it was. I slowly unzipped my tent, and then a loud knock rang out directly from that location I'd found a couple of days before. I ducked my head back inside the tent, and I sat there till morning, pretty unnerved. As soon as the sun was up enough to see, I got out of the tent and began to collect my thoughts about what happened. I have no idea what can knock on a tree that way, but that isn't anything that I've experienced before. I decided that had been just about as much excitement at night as I could stand. I decided to pack up camp and head back out to the car. An hour later, I was walking along the trail when something hit the back of my pack. I needed a break anyhow, so I took it down and sat down for a rest. When I noticed it was a rock, that's what hit my pack. Someone or something just threw a rock at me. I gathered up my pack and started to head on my way, and just then another rock was slung at my position. And another, and another. Well, at that point, I was pretty much ran all the way back out towards the car. Finally, after 45 minutes of being paralleled and having rocks thrown at me, I finally reached the parking area where my lone car awaited. I tossed my pack in the car, and I drove out of the area as quickly as my little Prius could go. I have no idea what it was that week, but I'll bet I really won't like the answer. Travis had a run-in with something with fingers, and at least that's what it takes to knock on trees and throw rocks. I'll bet he looks at camping differently now. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you. Some latecomers wanted to say hi to Travis Bumpy. And the Root Man was in the house as well. As I saw another one up here I wanted to say hello to, and now they are escaped. Jeremy Harrison and Agent Gandalf the White. Hello, everybody, and thanks so much for being here, Mr. Frank G. Y'all have a wonderful night. May the Squatch be with you till I see you back in 2 weeks. Thanks, guys. Good night.